Hi team, I'm here to go over what you guys have sent us so far about the Dailey website. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference this with website v9 file that I sent you, and then we'll go over this page by page. For reference, what I did was I'm just going to size this to 1024 like this so we can see in comparison what we have and needs to be changed. So let's start with the home page. On the home page, we have the carousel indicator kind of not centered into the middle of the page here as it is here. Um, we have this grid that we follow on this one. If you look at the value proposition title block, we're within the second to sixth column. So one is blank, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're within that. The arrow is below, centered between the sixth and seventh. And on here, if this is center point, this title block is encroaching too far into here. So if we put this below here, just to give you a reference of the column, you'll see that it looks like you guys started at the gutter and went into the start of the seventh column. So this needs to be reduced down so that it starts at the start of the second column and ends at the end of the sixth column, which is here. And I think that will fix the spacing issue. Another thing is, if we take a look at the arrows that you guys have here, they're not the correct arrows. I think you can pull these symbols out, or we could just send you a vector of it if that would make that easier. And then also, once the spacing is fixed for the title block, I think this content should be centered, or there's way too much padding going on up here versus down here. If you look at here, it's not necessarily centered, but yeah, there should be consistency of where this lays. If we go to this portion, which is the project section, which is laid out here, we have, again, the indicators here need to be centered down. It looks like, as far as the grid goes, this image here is a little too tall comparative to what was referenced, and also I don't think the grid is being followed. We have this block being within the second and 11th column, and in this it looks like, yeah, you're starting at the end of the first, and this is going to the start of the 12th. So I think this needs to be tightened up a little bit as far as bringing it in so that we have a little bit more breathing space all around, because all of this is really tight here and here comparative to here and here. And also the height of everything, it looks like everything is getting taller. If you look at, yeah, just overall the height of this box and this box compared to what we have on the comp. And also the down arrow should be relative to the bottom of the page. So this should kind of be moved down here, and then we need to implement an up arrow as well up here. I think that's it for this portion. Also, I noticed at the very bottom, I didn't have it in the comps for V9, website V9, but I did have it in the other ones. And if you reference the wires, we do want to have like CR work and contact us on the home page, and also contact us on the projects page, which would be very similar to what we have done on one of these pages somewhere down here. So something like this. I'm going to try to find the older file that I did that shows this one. I believe the other ones are done in white. But yeah, that when you scroll down, that should go up. And I think also if you can reference the wires that we sent you to see the notes on how it's supposed to kind of react. Also, another note is when this scrolls down to the second, you know how this kind of just like jumps from white to the magenta. If we could have that fade into magenta as well here. I think that's pretty much it for the home page. We will jump to the About Us section. Now I think this is the closest as far as to the wires that we, to the comps that we have provided. So let's take a look at this comp here. So I think the only difference, I'm not too worried about the spacing issue or differences, but on the dev, you guys have like 10 pixels of a bar under here that we would like to get removed, and also when it comes to spacing of this content here, it looks like this is not in the right grid. So if we follow the grid here, you'll notice that at 1024, it looks like this is correct. Let's bring it a little closer so it looks a little better. That looks correct, but this is kind of encroaching into another area. They should be more far out here. And also that would fix the spacing issue, because technically I think before we actually be kind of encased within here. So this bullet point should be moved up here and more to the right, and therefore this type can be extended more out to here. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I think that's the only spacing issue on the About Us portion. And again, the little bar that you guys have on there. So if we go to projects page for the next one, let's go here. I'd say for the projects page, this down arrow, I know we didn't have it in here, but if you can reference what we had here, the down arrow should be in respects to the bottom of the page, and same with the up arrow. If we can make, as far as the CTAs go, I know you guys made just the type clickable, but if we can make this entire box clickable, so that wherever the user clicks, it still goes to project details. This grid format is phase 2, so that should just be removed. And same comments below from the About Us page about the height being off and just not following the grid as far as the width goes. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, and also when you scroll down on the projects page, if you can follow the wires have a contact us that shows up on top. Yeah. Let's see, where else do we need to go from here? Careers. So from here, if we jump to careers, I think this is definitely good. The only thing is, yeah, eventually have slight parallax scroll on the image on the left as we scroll on the right. So I think this one is great. I think the arrows need to be adjusted so that it matches the style that we had created prior, which is this arrow here. As far as the contact page, I think the contact page needs a little bit of work. If we go here and take a look at it, overall it looks relatively close, but if we look at the grid, we have this one starting at the 5th column. On your execution, it looks like it starts at the end of the 4th column. That's why this is looking a little tight compared to this, where it's a little bit more open here. Also, I think yeah, we should remove that arrow, because that does not need a arrow on the comp. It looks like the CTA bar itself is a little wide comparative. I think this one didn't follow a grid necessarily, it's just relative width. Also the padding here, looks like the padding's correct up top, but the padding is a little off below, and maybe it was to fit within the frame. But yeah, I think that needs to be adjusted, whether it be adjusting the height of these boxes so that everything fits and has more consistency with this. Also the validations we're having a little bit of issues with. So what we wanted to do is have the check mark centered. So right now you guys have it kind of like on the top. And also if you enter a non-valid field for email per se, you guys have this little note that pops up, versus we had spec'd out that we wanted content to shift down and this to pop up underneath. I'm not sure if that can't be done or whatnot, Also, the font is off on Note comparative to the rest, and I think the only other thing is that this should be a little lighter before the posts fill out. So if you look at the comp, it's a lot lighter gray than what you have here. And the only other issue that I see is when this maxes out, it kind of does something funky where it just clicks back and does this. And I don't know why these red boxes are turning red all of a sudden, but yeah, it does that versus we had an example when it maxes out, it should just continue to go out. So yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not making much sense right now. I'm kind of a little under the weather, but when you pull it in, it looks fine, but when you start stretching it, it just looks weird comparative to like how it's supposed to look. The box should just widen out and this should lock at the end of the 12th column, and they should lock at the start of the first. So hopefully those notes are a good starting point for kind of some issues that we're having with the site. I don't want to go into mobile just yet because I'm not sure if it's ready for us to take a look at, because these are kind of the screenshots I was taking from my phone when I was taking a look on it. For instance, we got like type going outside of the viewable box, and the nav is just not there. So let me know. Thanks, guys.